Welcome back, listeners, to Mosaic's Community Life Podcast, Life in Canada, Episode 15. Thank you for taking the time to listen to our podcast today. My name is Jane Teasdale, and I'm one of the co-owners of Mosaic Home Care and Community Resource Center. Our organization focuses on person-centered care, social connection, and community. Today, I would like to introduce Eleanor Silverberg. She is a social worker and grief expert. And I have known Eleanor for several years, probably since 2010 at Mosaic's inception. So welcome, Eleanor. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
It's a pleasure to be here. We've got a long history.
We do. We definitely do. And I'm just going to read a bio because I always think it's important for our listeners so you know exactly who I have on the line. Eleanor Silverberg is a social worker, grief expert, and coping strategist who has been in private practice for 12 years. Using a non-pathological therapeutic approach, she gently aims to empower her clients, providing coping tools so they can monitor themselves with awareness. She developed the unique 3A coping framework as a navigating aid for coping through a variety of situational loss, circumstances such as health decline, family illness, death, job loss, financial loss, aging, and divorce. She devised the framework in 2007 while doing community outreach, social work in dementia care. Her specialty is in assisting caregivers of family members living with dementia or other ongoing serious condition as demonstrated in her books, Keeping It Together, How to Cope as a Family Caregiver Without Losing Your Sanity, and Mindfulness Exercises for Dementia. Eleanor holds a Master of Social Work, BA in Psychology, Certificate in Bereavement Education, training in mindfulness and internal family systems, as well as over 20 years of independent grief study. Welcome again, Eleanor, and it's great to have you on the line.
Thank you.
So the
Thank you.
first question I'd like to ask is actually, what is 3A coping framework? So our listeners have an understanding of what you provide. What exactly is it?
Well, similar to laying the foundation of a building, when you're building a house, the 3A coping framework is the foundation for strengthening resiliency to address adversity and loss. The objective is to empower you by providing coping tools so you can monitor yourself with awareness. The 3A coping framework actually originated from the contents of the 2007 article that I wrote while doing community outreach social work in dementia care. The article, which was published in the Omega Journal of Death and Dying, it filled a gap by raising awareness and addressing the losses and grief that dementia family caregivers experience. Addressing the losses and grief buried under caregiving demands is beneficial since the losses and grief can impact on caregiver well-being and ability to provide care. So applying the 3A components of acknowledge, assess, assist, and the methods contained within the framework, which I will explain, offers the opportunity to obtain relief, truth, resolution, and peace.
Thank you. And so my first question is, many individuals experience loss and grief in many ways. And can you describe the different types?
Yes. When we think of grief, we often think of death and the losses related to death circumstances. But people experience many different types of situational losses, such as what I just described, the loss of a family member who has dementia, So there's family illness losses, and then there's losses due to job loss or relationship breakups. So there's several different types of losses that people may experience. Now, also, when people experience loss, it often leads to other losses. It'll trigger other losses, such as in the case of losing a job, for instance. You lose a job, you lose a routine, you lose contact with colleagues that can also impact. In the case of dementia care, when a family member gets dementia, you lose the person, not only the person, but also the roles that
Hmm.
that person played. Maybe that person in a couple was the bill payer. Maybe that person was the cook. So the losses, there can be subsequent losses as well. There can be abstract losses that are not so tangible: loss of control, loss of time, loss of freedom, and loss of the ideal, future plans that will not go to fruition is also a loss.
And how do you help family carers or individuals going through loss and grief? And what supports do you put into place for the families?
Well, the 3A coping framework is is like I said, it is the foundation. It's called a framework because it's like an umbrella of components of acknowledge, assess, assist. Acknowledge the loss, face reality, assess the impact. What is the reaction? Is it emotional? Is it behavioral? And then based on what you acknowledge and assess, you assist with strategies to address the loss and what you are going through. And there are in the assist component, there are there's housed many different strategies, such as grief processing, cognitive reframing, mindfulness, self-compassion, and most recently added is internal family systems, which is another method. So it's actually in the assist. It's whatever is going to help, whatever is going to
Hmm.
help.
So there seems to be lots of layers to your processes, is sort of what I'm understanding, and I guess how you're working with the families.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And then
Yeah.
just going forward on how you're linking families or clients, how would you link them to other organizations that perhaps, some of the things that you can't provide, what are some of the resources that you may connect families to?
Well, yeah, that part is very important. That's part of assisting, is knowing what I can do and where I should be referring out, right? Such as if home care is required, that Mosaic is a home care. I is a home care agency that I would refer to. There's also different problems, like
Mm.
if there's abuse, then I have to go to the agency, and either I would get information, or I would refer to the agency, or in the case of addictions,
Yes.
um, to link there, where they are more equipped to
Yes.
provide the help. And that's really what I'm about, is really providing the appropriate assistance,
And
and
navigation.
as quickly as possible.
Yes. And definitely mental health. I do know that Loft is an amazing organization. We've made some referrals, to our families regarding that. So, I mean, Definitely, Eleanor, you are educated and, know those community agencies to help families. And can you describe your work in assisting caregivers of family members living with dementia or other ongoing serious conditions as demonstrated in your books, Keeping It Together, and How to Cope as a Family Caregiver Without Losing Your Sanity, and Mindfulness Exercises for Dementia?
Oh, I'd gladly speak about those books because I think the books are really valuable. For instance, for family caregivers of people with chronic illness, in keeping it together, um, provides what makes it stand out is that it has a large component that addresses the grief that family caregivers experience. It's not just a paragraph mention, oh, family caregivers grieve. It actually goes through how to, what are the losses, as I had described earlier, as well as going into how to address the grief. So it's much more descriptive, and I put a lot of credence on it, especially featuring the 3A coping framework in it: acknowledge, assess, assist. And in keeping it together, you're provided with a regimen uh, of caregiving, responsible caregiving, self-care, and then also the grief processing
Mm.
as well. And it's just been updated in the last year and is now available as an ebook. Now, mindfulness exercises for dementia is quite different in that it is working with the person with dementia, but also the caregivers, because I devised exercises so that people with dementia could also benefit from mindfulness practice. Mindfulness being in the present moment and accepting things as they are right now in the present moment. So, what I did to write this book, was I did a 12-week pilot project at an adult day program with people with moderate dementia. And I tried out different exercises. And each week we did meditation in between the exercises. So it's like the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. The actual session of mindfulness was a series of brief exercises interspersed with very brief breathing meditation. And then I put together the best exercises that worked well and put it in the book. So it's a book not only for professionals, let's say, to use it at adult day programs or in residences, but also for caregivers to use as an activity to do with the person with dementia in their home.
I think that's amazing. Definitely meditation. I need to do more meditation
We
myself.
all do. We all
Um,
do.
and definitely for family cares as well. I mean, I think if you're having to look after somebody who is ill or Alzheimer's, dementia, whatever the case may be, the family care gets burnt out. So, what are some of the things that they can connect to? Because their whole schedule then is based on that individual, going to doctor's appointments, if there's any x-rays
Well,
or,
that's what the book covers.
yeah. So
That
I think that's amazing.
the book covers, I would say the book is about equal to 4 or 5 of my sessions, individual
Oh, that's good.
sessions with
That's
people.
good.
And it includes 12 practice exercises. So it's hands-on so people can really get a real grasping of the content.
Yes. And it's also, I think the family carers have to also connect when they're experiencing that and they're burnt out, is connecting with their friends, attending an exercise class, or, meeting their friends for a coffee or a movie, even
The
something
respite.
as small as that. Um,
Getting respite is part of the assist. For family caregivers, it's definitely part of the assist
yes.
uh, component and self-care. It's all part of self-care.
So, how would
Mhm.
our listeners would get access to your book then? Where can they find it?
Okay, it is available on my website, which has just been newly redesigned. So it would be under the menu tips and tools on the website eleanorsilverberg.com. It could be Eleanor Silverberg front slash, I think it's front slash, and then books dash articles.
All right. And then obviously you said Amazon as well.
The ebook is on Amazon. You can ask through eleanorsilverberg.com. You can also access the ebook. It'll take you to Amazon.
Take you there. Okay, that's great. And I just wanted to find out, how do you implement person centered care or a sense of community with your clients and families?
Well, you know, really, I I normalize. I don't pathologize. I Anybody that comes to see me, I don't look at them as having a disease, or having a disorder. Uh, it's more, and they're being human. Some of them feel very isolated because they may feel like they're the only ones that are going
Yeah,
through this, and I try to tell them you're not alone. And that in itself can be um, can be a relief. Just to say that you're not alone.
that's right. And I
You
think
know
you're dealing with the whole person and understanding the family as well. And
that's it exactly.
you're definitely empathic and compassionate. Just even just chatting to you, you're very
Oh,
calming.
thank you,
You're very
Jane.
calming.
Thank you.
So,
Yeah.
you have, I think, from my discussion with you previously, you have a 4-week online grief intervention. Can you talk a little bit about that and what
Oh,
your
that is
workshops?
coming. That's actually coming up in November. I'm going to be providing a 4-week online grief intervention for situational loss over the life course. And it's a workshop. It's put on by the University of Toronto's Institute for Life Course and Aging. It's part actually of the Faculty of Social
Mm,
Work. I've been offering workshops featuring the 3A coping framework for them since 2014. So I'm so happy to be coming back to offer another one. Um, it's really suited for people who work in the field who really want to learn about how to address situational loss for their clients and apply the 3A coping framework doing it. So there's going to be quite a bit offered in that. It is especially suited for healthcare professionals who work with families dealing with dementia or other chronic conditions.
and can you just provide your website again to our listeners?
Sure, I'd be happy to. www.eleanorsilverberg.com, and I'll spell out Eleanor Silverberg. It's EleanorSilverberg.com.
I would also like to thank you for spending time with me and to our listeners on Mosaic's Community Life podcast, Life in Canada. At this time, I usually ask our guests if you would like to leave a takeaway message to our listeners. So do you have a takeaway message for us? I think you had an acronym that you wanted to
Sure, I
highlight.
do. I do have an acronym for you because I always like to make up things. Anyways, it's about really the basics that often can be forgotten when you're going through a challenging situation dealing with loss and adversity. And the first thing I would say is really remember to eat. Remember to eat healthy, because you might grab the first thing that comes your way, and in exercise. So I have this acronym to remind you, and it's C. The acronym is C, like
Mm-hmm.
C, but with three E's. SEEE, for yourself. The S is for getting sleep and rest, so important. E is, I mentioned, exercise. Another E is for eating well. And the third E, maybe Jane, can you guess what it is?
I think it's enjoyment in
It
life.
is enjoyment, but you got a hint before. You got it. But then you got it. And it's having not, it doesn't mean you have to go on a trip for a week or whatever. Just have an enjoyable moment. Maybe you hear a good joke and really appreciate the laughter when you do laugh about something, because it fills your whole system,
Yes.
really, to have enjoyable moments. And enjoyment does, in according to my 3A coping framework, enjoyment counters grief.
Yeah. I think it's what I do in my life is I try, again, you don't have to just always go on a trip. It could be an outing. It could be a picnic with a friend in the park. It could be going to a cafe somewhere. It could be going for a walk together. So I think, I find
Exactly,
that if I
exactly.
put something in my calendar to look forward to, it's very helpful if,
That is so true, to have something to look forward to. It might even be your favorite television program or a sports event that, people enjoy sports and whatever. It's really being able to enjoy it, because it's so hard to enjoy when you're going through something. That's why I say moments of
yes,
enjoyment,
yes,
because sometimes it's hard to enjoy or want to go out for a full day, but
yes.
finding
That's
something
right.
small.
And I think creating new moments and memories as well. I mean, we think about things in the
Absolutely.
past, but there might be new things that you want to try, or an art program, or ceramics, or
And Mosaic offers that.
yes, yeah, we do a lot of programs, so
I
you
know,
can
I know you do.
so you
I
can
know you.
definitely check us out. So we've come to the end of our show now. Our website for people that want to look at our events. Thank you, Eleanor, for well, thank you, Eleanor, for reminding me about that. So our website is www.mosaichomecare.com. So I would just like to mention to our listeners that in our next winter newsletter, we will feature Eleanor with her 3 A's. So you can certainly find out about what she does and how to contact her. So until our next Mosaic's Life in Canada podcast, this is Jane Teasdale signing off.